Alright, today we're going to learn lesson 2-6, fractions and decimals. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to convert fractions into decimals and decimals back to fractions. Let's begin with a little bit of review, and let's take a look at place value. Now this is the place value chart. Remember, when we're looking at place value, to always start at the decimal point, either move left or right. The first place to the left side is ones, next is tens, hundreds, and so on. To the right, this is when numbers get smaller and smaller. The first place is the tenths, second is the hundredths, and so on. Feel free to pause the video here for a second if you need a little bit of review. I'm going to continue on today's lesson, and let's first start with converting fractions into decimals. So look at the fraction 3/8. How do we change this into a decimal? Well, fraction can be thought of as a division problem. 3/8 is the same thing as 3 divided by 8. The first thing we can do is draw our division house. Now the hard part here, and a lot of students make this mistake, is which number goes inside the house. Now think of it this way. You and your friend both need to use the restroom. Who gets to go in first? That's right, it's the first number. 3. 3 gets to go inside first. Now 8 goes on the outside, and we start dividing. Now, 8 cannot go into 3, so what happens? Now we have to add in 0, but as you notice, that changes the number inside. We don't want to do that. A 3 just turned into a 30, and we don't want that. What can we do? We can add a decimal point over here, and that doesn't change the value. 3 is the same thing as 3.0, and now we can start dividing. First thing is to bring up the decimal point straight up. Now, how many times does 8 go into 30? 3 times. 8 times 3 is 24. And we subtract. 30 minus 24 is 6. We bring down a 0. How many times does 8 go into 60? 7 times. 8 times 7 is 56. We subtract, we get 4. We bring down another 0. Left with 40. How many times does 8 go into 40? 5 times, and it goes in evenly, so we can stop there. So the fraction 3/8 can be rewritten as 0.375 or 375 thousandths. And that is 3/8 as a decimal. Let's do another example. 1/6. Let me shrink this a little bit. 1/6. We go through the same thing. We draw our division house. The first number, top number, goes inside first. The denominator goes on the outside. Again, we realize that 6 does not go into 1, so we put a decimal point, put a 0. How many times does 6 go into 10? 1 time. 6 times 1 is 6. Subtract. 10 minus 6 is 4. Bring down another 0. How many times does 6 go into 40? 6 times. Now, one thing I forgot was to bring the decimal point straight up. Please don't forget that. And now back to the problem. 6 times 6 is 36. 40 minus 36 is 4. And we bring down another 0. We're left with 40 again. Now what happens now? As we notice that there's 40 here, and if we keep doing this, 6 goes into 40 6 times. This is going to be 36 again, and we're going to be left with the same numbers 40 minus 36 is 4. Bring down another 0, we're going to be left with 40 again. That keeps going, so our answer, our quotient, is going to be 0.166666666, repeating. And this is there's a special name for this kind of decimal. And we're going to look at these two names: terminating decimal and repeating decimal. Now, terminating decimal. Think of the Terminator. Terminator is the robot, the cyborg, that ends lives. So terminating decimal is a decimal that ends. So I'm going to type that very quickly. Decimal that ends or stops. Now obviously repeating decimal is decimal that repeats and moves on forever. Now let's look at these two examples that we did. 3/8, we wrote it as 375 hundredths. The decimal stopped. So this is called a terminating decimal. Whereas the 1/6, we wrote that as 0.166666 and so on. That repeats. That's called a repeating decimal. Alright, so we just looked at how to turn fractions into decimals. Let's look at how to turn decimals into fractions. We have here 25 hundredths. And this is the reason why I asked you to look at the place value chart earlier. The easy way of doing this is to look at the place value. This is read as 25 hundredths. So the fraction form of this would be 25 over 100. And then right here we can simplify into simplest form. We can look for the greatest common factor and divide. Or what I like to do is just look for any factor that goes into both these numbers and just go until we can't anymore. Both these numbers are divisible by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Now we always, if we're working like this, we always have to make sure that this is in simplest form. But right here I notice that these two numbers are both still divisible by 5. And we are left with 5 divided by 5 is 1. 20 divided by 5 is 4. And we have a fraction in simplest form. 25 hundredths can be rewritten as a fraction, as the fraction 1/4. Let's look at another example. Right here, let's read this. This is 36 thousandths. So how do we write that as a decimal? We have 36 over 1,000. And again, remember to always simplify this and put this in simplest form. Well, the greatest common factor of 1,000, well, any factors of 1,000, that's a really big number. I don't want to list all the factors, so I notice that both these numbers are even. I'm going to start by dividing by 2 and see where I go from there. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. Now both these numbers are still even, so let's do that again. Divided by 2, divided by 2, 18 divided by 2 is 9. 500 divided by 2 is 250. And I believe this is simplest form. Let's equal that. Our decimal, 36 thousandths, became a fraction 9 over 250. And that concludes our presentation for today.